Hello guys, you are watching Clarity and this is the review of the Huawei P10. The P10 came out in last year, but now it's much cheaper. It's in the $400 category, so let's find out if it's any good. It has a 12 megapixel color and a 20 megapixel monochrome sensor working together, and it has a Leica lens f2.2 both. It has a great build quality, it's really feels nice in the hand, the display is great and it's still very fast. But today we will focus on the camera and let's see if it's any good. So I have three main questions about the camera. First is, because only the black and white sensor has 20 megapixels, is it worth it to shoot color photos in 20 megapixels, or is it more worth it to shoot only in 12? So I took a 12 megapixel photo and upsampled it to 20, and on the other side is the original 20 megapixel photo. As you can see, there's very little difference between the two. Maybe there's a touch more detail in the 20 megapixel photo, but it's really small. Let's take a look at another example, and as you can see, there's very little difference between the two. Maybe again the 20 is just a bit sharper, but because you have to upsample from a lower resolution, you really can't do magic about it. So I would suggest to shoot in 12 megapixel when you take color photos. But another question is it worth to shoot in 20 megapixel when you take black and white photos? Because the black and white sensor is natively 20 megapixels. So the only question is, can the lens resolve that kind of detail, or is it just worth it to shoot 12? Well, it's easier to see the difference here. The 20 megapixel photo has much more detail, as you can see in the right side. It has much clearer textures, it's much sharper, it has more detail, more micro contrast, clarity, that kind of stuff. So in the case of black and white photos, I would strongly suggest to go for the 20 megapixel mode, because yes, this Leica lens can resolve that. So my second big question was, is this technology actually works in a low light? And to answer that, I tried to shoot a JPEG which uses both cameras, and I shoot RAW which uses only one. And actually I spent almost half an hour to process the RAW files, and as you can see, I couldn't manage to get that kind of quality which you can get just from a simple JPEG, just by touching a button, and it takes a second. And in the RAW file I spent many minutes to process it this way, and actually I think if you look at the details, the noise, the colors, the JPEG is the better picture. So yes, the dual lens system is definitely working, and in low light you should stick with JPEG and use the advantage of the dual lens system. So now let's take a look at RAW quality in general. And as you can see, the RAWs to my eye are much better. The JPEGs are a bit over sharp, the noise reduction is a bit too aggressive, and it looks a bit like a painting. And in the RAWs you can see much more detail, it's much more natural, it looks much more like a photo to my eye than the JPEGs. This is the best example maybe. You can see the trees, the foliage. It's much more natural in the RAW side. Again, the JPEG looks a bit like a painting, and the RAW side is very photo-like. There's so much detail in it, and it just looks so much nicer to me. Maybe it's not that sharp, but it's because it's not over sharp. It looks the way a photo needs to look. So in bright light, I would definitely suggest to go for the RAWs if you want the best quality. But in the low light, stick with the JPEGs because you have the advantage of the dual cameras working together. So finally, I was interested just how flexible are the RAW files of the P10, and in this example I will do a bit of push the shadows, pull the highlights, a bit more contrast. I will put a bit more saturation in it, and as you can see, you can increase the shadows very much. The details just come out, and there's very little noise penalty for that. I would say it's almost on par with my Canon DSLRs from 5 years ago, like the 550D or the 600D. It has a very good dynamic range, and you can really fine-tune your photos without worrying that it will break up and it will be really noisy. As you can see in this example, it still looks very good, very noise-free, even now that I did many modifications to the original photo. I think it's very good RAW quality from a smartphone. So if you are interested to shoot in RAW, the P10 is definitely should be very high on your list. So finally, you can see a few JPEGs straight out of the camera, and those are very good. But if you're willing to shoot only in JPEG, there are a few other great options out there. So, should you buy the P10 in 2018? One of last year's flagship is now selling at a mid-range price. It's faster than most other devices in that category and definitely takes much better photos than them. So, I think you have your answer now.